Welcome to the show, Dr. Mozingo. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to talk to you and have my listeners learn about all things weight loss and how that's connected to, our metabolic management systems in our body and the foods that we eat. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. Should be a good talk.
It should be. It sounds like from the stuff we've been talking about already, we talk a little bit, we speak a little bit of the same language with regard to how we help the people we work with, but we just come at it from a little different angle. So Could you tell me a little bit about how you ended up doing what you're doing and how you came to this place and how you practice?
Okay. At 16 years old, I decided I wanted to be a chiropractor. I was in a car accident, and it was one of those things. My cousin's a chiropractor. He had the best life. I mean, he was happy. So I was like, that's what I want to do. So I asked him how he did it. He went to Purdue University. He went to Palmer College of Chiropractic. I followed suit. I went to Purdue, went to Palmer, Florida, because it's in Florida instead of Iowa. And I was just, didn't know much about it. I knew I liked the way getting adjusted felt. But when I got to school, I found my passion was a lot into biochemistry. And it was kind of a hard fought way. Pretty good student for the most part till then, but biochemistry class hit me kind of hard. I had to do a little more studying than I ever had to before. Once I started learning, I really liked how the human body is so interconnected, and what we stick in our mouth plays a role in every bit of the biochemistry in your human body. So I started looking back at my life, and it turns out I grew up on a farm in Southern Indiana, and we always raised a garden and had family meals every night, and didn't eat a lot of restaurant food, didn't eat a lot of fast food. And then when I got to college, I did notice that I was eating, a little different than my home life, and I wasn't feeling as good. I definitely wasn't working as hard either, instead of on the farms, a lot more physical activity. But so it started to play a role into even my life that I'm not eating the way I grew up. When I grew up, I was never sick. I think I can't really remember the last time I went to the doctor for an illness. Like, I don't ever get sick, and it plays a role in that. The way I was raised, and mentality plays a role too. But I was starting, I didn't get the flu or a lot of sicknesses, but I just never felt great when I was eating poorly. Started studying it and realized, well, that's the link. It was the food I was eating. So I started eating healthier, started feeling better. Right? That was for me just a really good review. Is I learned myself that I felt great. I didn't feel great. Now I feel great again. And it was all about diet changes for the most part. Stress changes helps too. But so as I dove in a little deeper, I realized that nutrition plays a role in more than just the way you feel overall, because that can be pretty subjective and pretty generic. So I started learning how it played a role in, hormone function, metabolic function, digestive function, neurological function. What you eat can really have an impact on every facet of health. So that's where I started pushing my office into this functional nutrition, helping those people that, and a lot of people want to lose weight, and that's a lot of the reason they come to my office. But when they come to me, I help them understand that, weight loss is really a side effect of positive health, positive, healthy eating and mentality. So that's how I reach it.
You have to be healthy. You have to get healthy to lose weight. You have to get healthy to be healthier by losing weight, if that's something the body needs. And I love that you talk about the biochemistry piece, because if you study biochemistry at all, it doesn't really, you don't have to go too far where you see where nutrients, specific micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all these things go right into the pathways that make our bodies function. Yet, I have so many people that come in to work with me, and they will have been told by other practitioners that what they eat doesn't affect how they feel. I mean, that's a quote by so many people. And it makes them second guess what they're doing with me, what they're doing with people like you with regard to their nutrition, because they've been told that it really doesn't matter, and that your body is so smart, it'll just take care of all of it, no matter what you do to abuse it. And the bottom line is, our body is super smart, and it wants us to be healthy, and it works really, really hard, but we have so many insults that add to more injury over and over and over in our daily lives that eventually our body just can't keep up. Is Absolutely. That the kind of people, would you agree with that? Is that who you see when they come to you about this?
100%. Okay. That's exact truth. They have been told your human body just has something inherently wrong with it. It has nothing to do
Right.
with their habits, nothing to do with their lifestyle. It's just, this is who you are. And then I try to teach it, and it does take a lot of
Mhm.
education to say you're responsible for your health for the most part. There is some minor, you know, predetermined genetic issues that you could have, but
For
for the
sure.
most part, we are on a slippery slope because the healthy eating has gotten out of control.
Mhm.
And yeah, that education is really a hurdle for a lot of people, because taking responsibility is the hardest thing.
It is. And I'm sure you're sort of in the position as well that by the time people, I mean, I'm sure people come to you for their, adjustments that are
Hmm.
routine, but then that offshoot where it's getting into the more systemic part of it, of getting healthy and really digging into what's really bothering them, that people already have done so many other things that they're just know that there's something else, and they're already intuitively getting that nutrition is probably the only thing they really haven't dug into and worked in to their whole healthcare and well-being.
Absolutely. And even more than that is, what cleaners are they using, and what daily
Right.
habits do they have? They're really, in my opinion, it is becoming much more mainstream for people to learn, like, okay, I am eating just nothing but junk food and I don't
Right.
exercise near enough, but they are being held back by that it's easier to take a pill than fix it
Hmm.
mentality.
Yeah, and cheaper because you
Certainly.
hear people just say, "Well, I use my insurance for the prescription, and then it's a quick fix, and then we're good to go,"
Mhm.
kind of thing. And
Yeah.
they usually come back realizing that you're not really, really correcting what's going on underneath it all. So, what can we talk about with the links between food, health, and weight? That our doctors probably haven't told us. What do you do with your patients with that?
Okay. So when they come in, and again, a lot of people are coming in for weight loss, or they just overall, don't feel well, I guess is another good reason. They have
Yeah.
no idea why they don't feel well. They just know overall they don't feel well. So I explain to them, basically you have these symptoms. That's, your body doesn't feel great. A symptom is, you're in dysfunction. So
Hmm.
a symptom is the expression of some organ or bodily function that's not functioning properly. So symptom, the expression of a dysfunction, and dysfunction happens when you have a deficiency in, you're right, some micronutrients, some minerals, some antioxidant, some part of that biochemistry in their human body has kind of been depleted on a cellular level. So the organs that want to work, they're not getting the fuel they need. So the
Hmm.
process of getting them that fuel starts with, yeah, their fork, right? What they put in their mouth is number one. You got to cut
Hmm.
out the bad stuff to keep your digestive system from being mad at you, I guess is a
Right.
good way of putting it. Because
Yep.
in my world, that's kind of the first thing that falls, is your digestive function. Stomach
Yes.
function, for the most part, stomach acid levels fall. When that happens, you're going to become deficient because you just can't break anything down. You could eat salad all day, but you can't break the food
Right.
down. You're not going to absorb any nutrients anyway. So
Exactly.
it's just a long, not long, it's, my program's 100 days long, so they learn a lot in that 100 days, but it's that slow education of, first we got to work on your digestive function, second comes thyroid function and adrenal function, which is basically your hormone systems.
Right.
They're kind of the ringleaders on both of them, your metabolic and your metabolism system and your stress management system. And when we
Hmm.
get those in harmony, most things get easier.
Right. So, with regard to thyroid, adrenals, that stress management system, that is something that I talk about with almost everyone I work with. That's definitely at the core of my programs to help them out as
Hmm.
well. So, what do you say about that? With or how do you help your people deal with their thyroid balance, their adrenal balance, which manages their stress, and how it's sort of it's just so convoluted. They overlap each other. They affect each other. In female patients, it's affecting their monthly cycles.
Hmm.
In I don't do male patients quite as often, but there's some hormonal imbalances there as well. So what do you see with that, or how do you speak to your patients with that?
Well, first I would do the thorough analysis, right? That's
Mhm.
important to figure out what level their health is starting out. And that's where
Right.
I designed, we talked about this a minute ago, of a new start solution. On that website, I have this quiz and they fill it out, and it's basically every symptom that you can have,
Okay.
roughly speaking. It's like 120 questions, and it's
Hmm.
sometimes always or never format. And it gives them a very, populated information of, your thyroid function is functioning at 60%. And
Hmm.
I'm left-handed guy. I can't help it. I do numbers really well. So everything in my world is like percentage based.
Sure.
So that's how the quiz come out. So
Uh-huh.
I use that to give them an idea of this is a starting point. This is where your health is right now.
Right.
You are in charge to make it get better, or you can make it get worse on your own accord, if you will. So if you want to make it better, I give them this quick steps to do it. And again, it starts with proper digestive function. So first you got to clear out the food that just totally wrecks it. So
Right.
carbonated soft drinks, it's never going to work. If you love soda pop, whether it's artificially sweetened or high fructose corn syrup or however you want to drink it, it wrecks your stomach.
Yeah.
And if you let your stomach get so bad, it's going to be hard to get any nutrients to your thyroid gland or your adrenals. So starts with cutting out that poison. And then after that, we slide into, okay, this food is going to be good for your thyroid gland, right? So foods with iodine in them, it's part of the T3, T4. Right. Foods with tyrosine in them, T3, T4. And then that bridge, again, like you said, it's stress management. So what do we do here? You got to get sleep. If you work nights, and I have a lot, I'm in Columbus, Indiana, pretty heavy industrial area. Okay. A lot of people work third shift, and that's a battle, right?
Yeah,
that's always going to be tough. That's not how the body's, cortisol, which is stress management, and melatonin's made to work. It doesn't work. It's made to run with sunlight. So that's something that you have to either get rest or find a way to sleep. Stress, not everyone loves their job. That's one of those things too. It's a hurdle. How can you manage it and maybe find a hobby, maybe find something you love to do on the weekends? Sure, 5 days a week, you're kind of like, here's my grind. But at least 2 days a week, you get that little bit of joy out of the week or month, So that's kind of how you bridge that. And the nutrients are all the same. Tyrosine, unfortunately, it makes adrenaline. So if you live in stress all the time, your thyroid gland's never going to get what it needs. Your metabolic rate, never going to get what it needs. You're going to be stuck in this fight or fight, sleepy, tired, high cortisol levels all day. And if your cortisol levels stay high, your melatonin levels never come up, you can't sleep. So that's kind of the mix of how it works is you can't get rid of all the stress. That's part of, human life at this point. But we can manage it a little better if we just find something that takes our mind from the stressful things, And I also coach a lot of my patients that are families, family dinner is huge. It's a little thing like that can make a huge difference on the whole next day. If you have a nice dinner, shut your phones off, put them in the other room and just talk. That would help too.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of a full circle thing. It's a vicious circle if one thing is off and then one exacerbates the other. So it's really having someone help you point out what's going on in your life. It sounds like your quiz is incredibly comprehensive, and then it gives the data to help you guide what you're doing with people. So people are getting, it sounds like pretty customized care with regard to, what's going on in their life, because what's going on in my life and what's going on in your life are completely different, and how we need to approach it is going to be different as well. So for those people who have a known thyroid condition, so whether it be hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves, or thyroid cancer, or someone like me who is post-thyroid cancer, still, have ongoing, doctoring for it and issues that kind of arise with it periodically because of stress. I can speak to that 100%, that your stress management or inability to manage stress absolutely causes your thyroid meds to not work. It definitely has impaired it. I've had to learn that lesson far too many times. But so someone like with me, for example, that does not have a thyroid gland, or if you don't have one that's functioning, what do you say with regard to their metabolic systems and dealing with an ability to lose weight, or people who are just gaining weight like without even trying?
Sure.
What can you say to that?
A couple things. Luckily, the body is inherently beautiful, right? I mean, it is adapted in a way that's amazing. So when you do have your thyroid gland removed, or, necessarily through the cancer things, the liver is a pretty amazing organ. It can almost take over the function, and it can do a lot of production of the thyroid hormones. So it will help you. So what can we do for that? Load the body with antioxidants, do good things for your liver. Try to minimize high fructose corn syrup and alcohol that really slows down liver function. So when you get to that level, the level of a thyroid removed completely, you also got to worry about those, halogens that block thyroid production. Minimize bleach use, minimize bleached white bread, minimize fluorinated water, minimize brominated
Vegetable oils
pre-cleaners
and
and
stuff.
stain blockers from your furniture. All that stuff is covered in bromide. Like,
Hmm.
minimize that stuff, clean that up, open your windows, let fresh air in. Don't use Teflon that's got scratched plates. That fluoride
Hmm.
in it will just totally wreck thyroid function.
Hmm.
And again, liver function, number one, though, it will really help you maintain your metabolic rate, because everything that has to do with weight loss has to go through the liver. So that's usually about stage 2 in my world, is digestive function goes down,
Hmm. Hmm.
which allows bad stuff to get into your portal vein, gets into your liver, and makes
Right.
it sluggish. And that inherently what slows down your thyroid and your metabolic rate. So flushing the liver with a detox is always a good idea too,
Hmm.
load it with antioxidants.
Right. Supportive nutrients to help you go through the phases of liver detoxification that happens
Absolutely.
every second of every day. Because
Absolutely.
I hear a lot of people say, my whoever told them that liver detox is bad. You don't need to do that. Your body just naturally does it. It's dangerous. And yes, there are some probably not so great things out there to do a, quote unquote liver detox.
Sure.
But it's something that, because of our environment, because of the things you mentioned, Teflon, the stain protectors on furniture and carpets and that type of thing, we just don't even think about that. And if we're
Mhm.
bombarded with those chemicals, and then we have all kinds of stress in our lives, and we're taking a bunch of medications and eating poor food, our liver is so bogged down, and we need to
Yeah.
support that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that argument. It's like, I don't need to detox. My liver does it every day. I'm like, well, your car drives every day, but you got to give it gasoline, right? You got to
Right.
feed this thing.
Got to change
You
the
got to
oil.
give it what it needs to keep itself running smoothly. And it's a very simple fact. You can't burn both ends of the wick. I think that's the saying. I'm not sure if it is or not, but
Sounds good.
yeah, you got to either eat clean or detox or do something right.
Right.
You can't
Hmm.
just live in stress and eat junk food and expect your body just to keep you as healthy as can be. It won't work.
Right. I mean, and I think the other argument that I hear people say is like, well, that they know so-and-so that eats terrible and doesn't have a lot of healthy habits, doesn't exercise or whatever, and they're just fine, and they're fine and healthy. And I don't know, I can't explain why that is. Sometimes people are just, lucky. It just hasn't hit them yet. I don't know how to explain it, but if that's not you, if you're seeing someone like me or like you because of that, then you just have
Yeah,
to, it's not, just move on. It's
yeah,
just not what you're dealing with. So deal with what you're focusing, what you need to do for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. You take your own battles. Yeah.
Exactly. So can you talk about, and we kind of already have on some of it, but the main hormones and organ functions for weight management? Can we get into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts with number one, insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Number one,
Yeah.
glucagon and insulin, that from your pancreas is the most important thing. We eat too much, too often as a whole. Now, everyone says, well, it's easy to gain weight and it's hard to lose weight, right? And
Right.
everyone knows that. And there's a reason, because even in the flight or fight response and thyroid function, adrenal function, the body is on this earth to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what its main goal is. One is survive, two is reproduce, right? That's what where nature is as in the animal kingdom. Gaining weight in the human body, because of the way the hormones work, is the act of surviving.
Right.
So if we are supposed to have feast and famine type diet, over the last 100 years, we've gotten this development of, grocery stores and gas stations with food everywhere. But back in 100, 200 years ago, food wasn't that readily available.
Mm-hmm.
So you ate when you had food, when food was available. So you were in feast and famine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the days that you had a lot of food, or, they managed to kill a buffalo, or you found a nice lot of berries growing, you eat and the body would absorb those nutrients, and it's surviving by storing calories,
Mm-hmm.
because there could be time that food doesn't come. So
Right.
gaining weight is that act, right? It wants to store it everywhere it can, because the body interprets when you lose weight, there is no food coming. So you're slowly dying, because when you run out of calories stored, you die. So
Right.
that's why it's so hard to lose weight and so hard to gain weight. Now, we do have an unfortunate abundance of food in this country, and most of it on the shelves is really bad for you,
Mm-hmm.
meaning high glycemic load. The
Right.
glycemic index of a food describes how well it, or how much it can manipulate your blood sugar. So if you eat a lot, your glucagon levels, which is the opposite of insulin, will drop because you're not hungry. Insulin has to come up to make your body get the sugar out of your blood, push it to the muscles, push it somewhere, push it out of the human body, because you don't want blood sugar too high.
Mm-hmm.
We do this all day, every day. So if your insulin levels stay high, you will never, ever be able to lose weight. I mean, that's just the way it works.
We've been told to eat 6-8 times a day. So
Absolutely.
we're constantly having this insulin surge.
Yes. And we never exercise.
Right.
So we never burn the sugar once it's into our muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So glucagon, again, the opposite, the one that makes you feel hungry,
mm-hmm.
we need to be in it all the time. So that's where intermittent fasting is kind of the closest thing to a feast or famine diet. And it does matter what you eat during the intermittent fasting, but stopping eating for 8, 10, 12, 24 hours at a time is not the end of the world. Right. It will help your body maintain healthy blood sugar levels, because you do have systems in place. If you have a little stored in your thighs or your midsection, it can take it back out and you can stay alive. So that's a hard thing to do, is curb hunger. But as far as hormones go, you have to get your insulin levels down. So that means you have to increase your glucagon levels. That means not eating all the time. So
I'm glad you bring that up, because I don't, we talk about insulin so much, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners don't maybe or know of or have never heard of glucagon. Can you explain that just a little bit more?
Okay. So the pancreas is kind of in charge of blood sugar. We all know that, right? So when you become a type 2 diabetic, they say your pancreas is kind of given up, insulin's not effective, and you're insulin resistant is the term. Well, there's always, one or other hormone that's up. So they're always counteracting each other. I think the pancreas is, the alpha cells produce glucagon, the beta cells produce insulin. Right. So when you're hungry, your insulin levels drop, right? That makes us need sugar, or we don't have a lot of sugar in our body. Then glucagon levels come up. This is very good news. So glucagon actually makes us feel hungry because it wants you to get food. But the problem is we are glucagon super sensitive and insulin insensitive. Right. So we overeat a lot and we keep insulin up, and we don't really seem to care about that. We don't care about feeling too full, but when we get hungry, we hate that.
We hate that, yeah.
We hate it. So we just eat as fast as we can. As soon as you feel a hunger pain, we're fast as you can. So glucagon, if you look at any other metabolic pathways, cortisol, for example, it kind of depletes when glucagon is high. There's some other hormones that I'm trying to think of, leptin and adiponectin. Those two all come from fat cells. But when glucagon is high, leptin comes down, because glucagon activates that lipolysis, which brings the fat tissue back to the forefront, to the liver, to get the energy out of it. So you're in a starvation mode, which is what glucagon is good for, removing fat tissue instead of storing it. So that's where glucagon is, in my opinion, what you want the highest. You want to become glucagon resistant and insulin sensitive, and we have flip-flopped that.
We have the opposite. Yeah. So for the listeners, basically it's just checks and balances. And I think that we're always talking about insulin, which is super important, but that's why I just wanted to highlight a little bit more about the glucagon, because that is our body's balance mechanism. And we have that type of mechanism in pretty much every system. And so I just wanted a little bit more clarification on that for everybody, because it's very, very important, because we are so insulin insensitive, and that is sort of at the crux of all of the metabolic things that are happening with people that are so prevalent and almost considered normal. And so to your point about, like, it's good to be hungry, we all kind of freak out if we get hungry. And I know with people going through some of my programs, I've people would just be like, well, what happens if I'm hungry? Do I eat? And it's like, we to take it case by case, but you have to kind of look at it. But people there's a lot of fear around being hungry, and it's not like we don't have access to food, and we don't, it's just a whole mentality where I don't know if people think they're going to drop dead on the spot if they're hungry for 30 minutes or what it is, but it's a very uncomfortable place for people to be, which kind of
Sure.
sheds light on a whole other issue, I believe, too.
And yeah, I mean, we've all heard the term hangry, right? And that's a real
Yes.
thing. When glucagon's high, it does manipulate you a little bit to try to
Mm-hmm.
be more encouraged to go find food. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. But we have to be able to understand that we're not going to fall over and pass out in 14 minutes. If
Right.
you go 10 hours or 6 hours without food, like your body has mechanisms inside of it. It is a check and balance all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to maintain you until you get to 1% body fat. Then you would probably worry a little bit, but
Right.
most of us don't have that problem.
Right. So one of the things that that I work with people with dealing with hunger and
Hmm.
intermittent fasting, you brought up intermittent fasting.
Hmm.
There's a little bit of controversy with, you can look at all the research and it kind of goes back and forth, but with people who have a thyroid condition or no thyroid gland and fasting, some people
Hmm.
say it's the greatest thing for it, you should do it. And then other people say, no, not a good thing for people with thyroid conditions.
Hmm.
My take on it is that if you have your stress management system in play and you are not just going from eating 6 times a day down to fasting 24 hours a day, 3 times a week or something,
Sure.
you're probably going to be okay if you just sort of get your insulin in check, get your glucagon in check, start managing your stress, making sure your thyroid numbers are, where they need to be, especially if
Hmm.
you're being treated, that you can do some kind of intermittent fasting without too many repercussions, because it can be stressful for some people. What do you say to
Sure.
that?
Well, that's a good I mean, that's a good thought process, or a good, thought process on how thyroid function does weigh in a lot on your metabolic rate, and the calories you eat weighs in a ton on the thyroid function. Because the thyroid gland, from my research, is basically this monitoring system all through the human body. It monitors
Mm-hmm.
what the temp is outside, which is why it's so superficial in the neck. It monitors what the internal body temperature is, which is your metabolic rate. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Your body temperature is in direct relation to your metabolic rate.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a fever, you lose weight really fast, right? Because your rate spikes. And you don't need as much, I guess, because sometimes we're sick. But so the thyroid gland is regulating outdoor temperature, what you're exposed to, your internal temperature, calories coming in, and calories stored
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
Right.
So when your calories coming in are high, it does raise your metabolic rate a little bit because your digestive system comes up that produces heat and all these things. So when you stop eating a lot, your caloric levels come down, your metabolic rate's naturally going to come down. So your thyroid function is naturally going to come down. And
Mm-hmm.
that can shock the body too much. So
Right.
yeah, cold turkey going straight into not eating for 24 hours is bad if you're used to eating consistently. But then as your body, you do stop eating, you will lose weight. That's how it works because no calories are coming in. So you will burn your stored ones. When your stored calories come down, the thyroid gland is monitoring that as well. So it's naturally going to also bring your metabolic rate down because it is that simulation of dying. It's worried
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to run out of calories.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think about that when you're intermittent fasting is your natural calories are going to come down so you can bring your total calories in down, and got to meet that thyroid kind of in the middle. You
Mm-hmm.
don't just want to shock it over and over and over again because you're right. It will just bring your thyroid function down, 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 down because it doesn't know what's going on. You
It's
want to make it
so
very,
stressed out.
yeah, it's worried that
Mm-hmm.
this either it doesn't see what's out there. It's either thinking you're in a major feast and famine problem in the world, like there's no buffalo left, I guess, back in
Mm-hmm.
old times, but
Mm-hmm.
it will scare it to death. And that's where this problem of yo-yo dieting happens, because the thyroid gland, it doesn't want your stored calories level to come down. It
Right.
never wants that. Once you get it up there, it likes it because it's comfort zone for it.
Right.
So once you get it down, it will get a little rocky. Your
Mm-hmm.
body will get a little irritable. You will want to eat food. And then once you give in and you start to bring that levels up, that's like satisfaction for a
Mm-hmm.
thyroid gland. So it'll make you just keep overeating and overeating, and then you'll gain the weight back +5 is the
Sure.
problem. Yeah.
So speaking of calories, I've seen for a lot of people I've worked with, I've seen for myself that restrictive calories is not good because of what you just have, or
Mhm.
just what you were explaining with how the thyroid functions. It down regulates after time if you're completely reducing calories, in an extreme situation. And that's sort of the argument for some people against intermittent fasting, that the bottom line is it's overall, it's calorie control.
Hmm.
But I guess I look at it more from the biochemical process and the physiological process, that it's, getting more time for rest and digest. The autophagy
Hmm.
sets in. It's helping that insulin, normalize
Hmm.
finally, those types of things. I feel like that is more important than the calories. Although when you're eating in your window, you should be
Hmm.
eating high quality calories. It shouldn't just
Yeah.
be calories. You shouldn't just stuff your
Yeah.
face with 1,500 calories of junk.
Yeah.
That
The word
actually,
calorie is a dangerous
it
word
is a dangerous word.
because people think if they only eat this many calories a day, they're in good shape. But if you eat one Snickers bar at 200 calories that day, like, you've done something really wrong here. I mean,
Right.
the nutrients you gave your body was minimal. So again, I don't work my life on macronutrients as much as micronutrients, and I think you're
Right.
pretty much on the same page with
Yep.
that.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. We start like, working on meal planning around macronutrients, just to get sort
Hmm.
of their brain wrapped around, or I should say unwrapped, with, food groups.
Yeah.
And, however people learned about it on the pyramid or the My Plate and whatever.
Hmm.
And there's these magic numbers and servings of all this food, but they don't take into account the quality of it. So then we start talking about macros, but then,
Hmm.
underlying, and I'm in there behind the scenes dealing with the micronutrients,
Sure.
and helping them optimize their biochemistry. That's the goal. um
Absolutely.
yeah, so that calories in, calories out thing is really it's really difficult, because there's so much information out there about, if you reduce calories you lose weight, but then
Yeah.
what are the other things you're doing, what are the other underlying conditions you have,
Sure.
so it's not just an easy answer, I guess, is
Yeah.
the bottom line.
Yeah. Losing weight in general is a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing because
Right.
you're right. You could be just totally wrecking your thyroid function
Right.
if you're not doing it very strategically and adding the foods that matter to make your body work better.
Hmm.
A body that's running well will run lean. That's what it wants to do,
Right. Yeah, that's what it's naturally trying to do.
and that's what it's trying to do. Yes.
So let's talk about, speaking of calories in, calories out, and weight loss.
Hmm.
Let's talk about your book. It's called The Wait
Okay.
Is Over. Can you talk to us about that? Explain that to us. What's
It
in it?
goes through a lot of what we're discussing today. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically, it helps people understand that they are in control of
Mm-hmm.
their health. And if they don't believe it, if they read this book, they're going to know that their habits have to match up with those that the body is made to work on, right? And again, we talked about already, so sleep has to happen. How, we have changed human nature over the last 100 years way too much.
Right.
It's us talking right now is amazing, right? We're not face to face, we're on computers and using
Mm-hmm.
microphones. Like 100 years ago, this is crazy to talk about. 200 years ago, it's preposterous.
Right.
So we're just changing too fast. We have too much electronic, too much engagement with digital information. So that goes through basically how the world, or how human nature was started, not was started, but we all know how that worked, but
Mm-hmm.
how our habits used to be, which is hunters and gatherers, going to sleep when the dark happened, right? That was time to go to bed. When it became
Mm-hmm.
dark outside, they didn't have flashlights. So you go
Right.
to bed at that point, and that matches like the cortisol and melatonin rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So it just helps educate on all those little bitty factors in your health. Then it talks about what changed in the food system, how that over the last 100 years has really went
Mm-hmm.
in a poor direction. And
Right.
then it talks a little bit about what went wrong. Then it talks about the exact mechanics, biochemistry inside your human body, so they can learn how the digestive system works, how the thyroid system works, how the adrenal system works, how they work together, how the liver is the center of it all, how weight loss is, again, that it is an intake and outtake of calories, but it's bigger than that. It goes into sugar consumption. It talks about inflammation, and then, you know, basically heart disease, which is the number one killer in America, and talks about how we're all in this same step pattern to that if we don't change our habits.
Mm-hmm.
And
That
at the end
sounds
of the day,
amazing.
yeah, it
Oh,
gives you
go
some
ahead.
resources on how to fix it. At
Okay.
the last section is how to fix the problem.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like it's very user friendly and easy to understand. I didn't have a chance to read it before we got
Sure.
this scheduled and stuff, but I do want to read a copy of that book. So I'm going to get
Okay.
myself one. And so I can get this, and we all can get it at newstartsolution.com.
Yep. Or
And
Amazon. It's for sale on Amazon.
it's on Amazon. Perfect.
Mhm.
So is there anything else you'd like to touch on that we didn't cover, or want to get into even a different aspect of something we haven't covered?
I mean, I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, we could take each of those things and talk
yeah.
for an entire hour on those for
And
sure.
anyone of your audience, if they're interested in just seeing what their health score is totally free to go to New Start Solution and fill it out. And it'll email them a direct report. It'll also email me one, but I don't reach out. If they want to talk to me, they can.
Okay.
And I'm usually pretty accessible on email.
Perfect. That's
Mhm.
awesome. So newstartsolution.com, take the quiz, and the book is called The Wait is Over, available on Amazon. And so anyway, I just really appreciate you being here. I love
Yeah,
the topic. I think it is a very well-rounded, sensible approach to dealing with weight loss, especially for people struggling with underlying conditions,
sure,
because it's not about quick fixes. It's about fixing all the things underneath that contribute to the
sure.
problem in the first place. So I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, take care.
Mhm.